Andrew Avramenko already has a full-time job. He works at a school in Bath, and he is now taking on a new other role as well. Andrew, whose father and grandparents escaped from Ukraine at the end of World War II as refugees, is going to be looking after a group of Somerset churches as an associate priest. So we thought it would be lovely to have a chat with Andrew about his life and also to find out what an associate priest does. But here's the thing. We also found out that the Reverend Andrew is related to both a saint and a pirate. So many different questions. And so we thought we'd start with the saint and the pirate bit.
So my granddad on my mum's side did the family tree some years ago and found those two things out. So he found that we are related to Henry Morgan, who most people will know from the rum bottles. So Morgan's Rum, that pirate on there is Sir Henry Morgan. And he was a pirate who worked for the British, like the Buccaneers, against the Spanish in the Caribbean, and was later made governor of Jamaica. So authorized sinner, you could say. And then another sort of notable ancestor, although this particular one didn't have children himself, so we're rated sort of sideways, is John Henry Newman. He shared my grandfather's name. And he was a notable figure in the Church of England, and then switched to the Roman Catholic Church and later became Cardinal Newman, famous for the Birmingham Oratory and various hymns and great theology that he wrote. And then he was later, fairly recently, last sort of 10 years, beatified and then sainted in the Roman Catholic Church. And I was fortunate to be invited with other people to the beatification by Pope Benedict in Birmingham about 10 years ago, which was quite a feat, quite a spectacle to go to. I'm in the Church of England, but to go to another such celebration, it was really interesting to see how we all are so interconnected and where we come from. I think it's really important. It really helps us both connect with the past, but also the future.
Well, how lovely. What interesting findings as well when you look back, as you say, through the past in your family. But of course, for the future generations, your story is going to be equally as interesting. So how did you come to be a priest?
Well, I came to faith in my mid-20s in a fairly sort of dramatic way, in the sense of I researched God. I went to research God. That obviously isn't dramatic. It was all very fine. Intellectually, it was good. And then I was on my way home from a concert at Shepherd's Bush Empire. It was PJ Harvey from Dorset. And I was in quite a dark place at the time. And there was a glowing figure that looked like Jesus appeared beside me on the train. And that's a sort of very short version of it. But essentially, I met Christ on the train. No drugs, no alcohol, no nothing. I was so skint. I just had the free water you could get at the concert venues. And then soon after that, sort of felt a call to ordained ministry, to be a vicar. But makes me laugh now. But at the time, I used to go to the pub after church with a group of friends. And in that group of friends, there was a vicar, a church verger, a chaplain, somebody going for ordination. So I just assumed that everyone who was new to the faith felt a call to ministry. And so it's not me. I'm not one of those people. I'm not a church leader. So I just sort of put it aside and ignored it for at least 10 years, maybe more. And then I was out for a run and thought, well, I better start praying for these churches I'm running past. And just had this voice telling me, go and have a look. Think of it like a car showroom. Go and browse and see what the models are like, but you don't have to buy. No commitment. I think that's God's sense of humour and reverse psychology. God can do reverse psychology on us, but it doesn't seem to work the other way around, because I've not got a ministry in the Caribbean like Henry Morgan did.
Tell me about the role, because associate priest is not as straightforward to me as a priest. So what does it mean you'll be doing?
Essentially, I'm self-supporting at the moment. So that essentially means, in biblical terms, it used to be called, and still is, tent making. So I pay my bills by doing one job. And then I'm linked with the Peasdown churches, the church in Peasdown, in Wellow, and Shoscombe and Foxcote, which is just south of Bath, north of Midsummer Norton, Radstock. And it means that I will be doing sort of pretty much everything a normal priest does, but obviously I have a job as well to pay my bills. So I'm not paid by the church. I am paid by the school I work at to do that job. And then in my spare time, which is, school bell goes at 3:15, then priest hat comes on. And so traditional things that a priest will do. So I've got a baptism, I'll be preaching, I'll be working in the community. The old phrase of seeing where God is doing work and joining in, trying to connect with people and connect people with God, and just basically live out the faith just with the name of a priest, really. Not that much different from a lot of people who go to church. They have a day job. They go to church, they get involved and volunteer in different ways. I just happen to be a priest as well.
And your day job kind of overlaps with this new job that you've got, because both are based on community and support and being there for others.
Yeah, absolutely. So I've started working fairly recently at St Gregory's Roman Catholic School in Bath as a learning support assistant. And that essentially means working with children to help them reach their potential. And in terms of equity of access to education. So rather, some might need some extra help, some might need some mentoring, and just making sure that they can actually access their education, meet their potential, be there for them in whatever way can be useful. And then also, supporting the teachers. It's a lovely school. My children have been there, and it's a very holistic school that looks at not just the academic achievements, but also the whole person of the child, with all the pressures that they are under. It's tricky for the best of us. And for young adults and teenagers, it's particularly stressful. My son's just done his GCSEs this year. They've got the added pressures of the impact of COVID that's happened, that affected them in primary school and in secondary school. And they've got the sort of world they're going into, as well as biological changes that they have to deal with. So young adults and teenagers have so many stresses to deal with. It's really sort of working alongside them and helping them wherever I can to reach their potential, so that when they leave school, they can actually hit the ground running and have a really enjoyable, fruitful life.
What a lovely way of summing it up. And in terms of the new job you've got, like you say, it's kind of been a long time in the planning. Has it sort of lived up to what you hoped it would be, or did you not really have any hopes because of the journey that led you to it?
I seem to refer to it often as a magical mystery tour. There's ups and downs like with any journey, any sat nav. You have diversions, and then it reroutes you to where you're going to go, and eventually you're going to get to the destination, whether it's a scenic route or the fast route. The thing that keeps me grounded is that I feel at home. I've been searching, I think it was when I was 16. Up until then, I was obsessed with going into the Royal Air Force and flying planes. Something happened, we were going to move house again, and I knew I wanted a stable life for my future family. So I decided, right, okay, I won't go to the RAF. What am I going to do with my life? And I think entering this route towards being ordained, becoming a priest, thinking, okay, this feels right. This feels like where I'm going to be. But I've been on this journey before, thinking, okay, maybe it's this job, maybe it's that. But then as I've proceeded along this road towards the priesthood, it feels more and more like me, more and more like home. And now I am a priest and doing a role unexpected. I didn't necessarily expect to be a self-supporting priest at this stage in my priesthood, but it feels like home. And it's same with working with the children at St. Greg's. It feels like me. It feels like home. This is where I'm supposed to be.
With titles, there are, through our lives, there are very few opportunities to kind of use them or be excited by them. I've only ever had Master and Mister, but you get Doctor. To be referred to as Reverend, I mean, that sounds quite grown up. Does it ever kind of catch you out that that's you?
It does, yeah. It does look odd. I don't use it at school because it's, I like to separate the two. So I'm there as a learning support assistant. It feels like I have to be a lot more responsible. And I do find I drive a lot more sensible when I've got my clerical collar on. I hasten to say I'm not a crazy driver, but I'm very conscious as I'm driving and thinking I've got a bit of plastic under my chin. Yeah, no, I'm really making sure I let that person out of the junction and don't act crazy as I change lanes and so on. I think the thing with titles, it separates us in one sense, and they are useful. They describe who I am. But essentially, you and I are no different, and the same in the church. I have a role to play, but I'm no more important than anyone else, whether it's from the child who's coming, to the parent, to the grandmother, to whatever they are. There's so many roles that we all need to do in order to take part, not just in church life, but in community life, in work life, that we are all needed, and we all have different roles, and some of those roles have titles. They can be very grand, and you can let that go to your head, but for me, that's less important. It's good for people to know and see the clerical column, see Reverend, so they know they can approach me, whether it's for prayer or for guidance or to talk about Jesus. But they know that they can switch on the radio and listen to you, and to listen to the conversations that you have with people. All those things are needed and connected, and sometimes titles are really helpful for that.
What a lovely man. That is the Reverend Andrew Avramenko from Bath, who is an associate priest. Isn't that an incredible job title? And a very good driver as well.